Hey, I just came across the CNN article that's trying to refute the email issue with Clinton. It says, while an FBI investigation into Clinton's email server continues, the State Department Office of Inspector General has raised the stakes with the release of a remarkable report finding that Clinton's actions violated State Department policies and were inconsistent with federal record-keeping laws. We know that. Okay. The report also discloses new details relevant to Clinton's motives and her assertion that the use of a private server was simply a matter of convenience. While criminal charges still remain unlikely, the Inspector General's report is significant and unquestionably damaging to Clinton's public defense. Most crucially, the Inspector General directly contradicts Clinton's repeated assertions that she complied both with federal law and State Department policies. At a minimum, the report finds, Secretary Clinton should have surrendered all emails dealing with the department businesses before leaving government services, and because she did not do so, she did not comply with the department's policies that were implemented in accordance with the Federal Records Act. Okay, so we know all that already, right? The report further goes to say that, noting that while Clinton's subsequent production of 55,000 pages of emails in response to the State Department's demands partially corrected these violations, the records Clinton turned over were incomplete. Remarkably, the report includes reference to a previously unreleased 2010 email in which Clinton, responding to her Deputy Chief of Staff for Operations, Huma Abedin, directly addresses her lack of an official State Department email account and voices fear of the risk of her personal account being accessible if she had one. In a briefing, State Department officials were unable to confirm the source of this email. How can they not confirm it? If it has her email address and Huma Abedin's email address, and it says it's coming from Huma to Clinton or from Clinton to Huma, how could it be unsubstantiated? But if it was omitted from the records Clinton produced, it again would raise questions about the process she used to distinguish between federal records and personal records before destroying the latter. The Inspector General also reveals the comments of State Department records management staff in late 2010, expressly raising concerns that Clinton's private email server could contain federal records that needed to be preserved in order to satisfy federal record-keeping requirements. A senior official rebuffed these concerns, claiming that Clinton's email arrangement had been approved by the department legal staff. An assertion the Inspector General concluded was untrue, and directed staff never to speak of the Secretary's personal email system again. Such facts undermine the argument that the significance of maintaining a private server and the negative effects it could have, including on responses to Freedom of Information Act requests or congressional subpoenas, were simply overlooked. Oh yeah, I'm in the government, I'm Secretary of State, I've been warned and told, but I'll just overlook it. Now, her response. Clinton's response to the report is further complicated by the fact that the State Department did not contest the Inspector General's findings, concurred with his recommendations, and even acknowledges in its response that the department could have done better at preserving emails. So now she's flipping it and putting the blame on the department. All of this would serve to undermine assertions by Clinton that the Inspector General's conclusions are biased or politically motivated. Yeah, she's trying to say that it's Republicans put them up to this. Indeed, thus far, Clinton's response has focused on the argument that other secretaries of state also use private email. Well, there may be reports that come out, she said, but nothing has changed. It's the same story, just like previous secretaries of state. I used a personal email. Many people did it. It was not at all unprecedented. And it is true that the Inspector General does not spare former Secretary Colin Powell Powell from similar allegations, documenting his use of private email and his admitted failure to preserve those emails. Yet this arguably only furthers the perception that the Inspector General's review was both balanced and non-biased. And Clinton's response highlights how her defense, which began with confident assertions that she followed all the rules and broke no laws, has now been reduced to the argument that, well, others did it too, or that the rules she violated were not significant. Criminal charges? Despite the Inspector General's report, criminal charges against her remain highly unlikely. While the report provides previous non-public information relevant to Clinton's motivations, the available public evidence remains insufficient to illustrate two facts needed for a criminal charge: that she knew that the emails on her private server were classified, and that she intentionally mishandled classified information. There was an Yet the Inspector General's report also highlights the uncertainty that surrounds the precise scope of the current FBI investigation. The extent the FBI has limited its inquiry to security issues and the possible mishandling of information, classified information, for example. The Inspector General's report finding violations of the federal records laws potentially implicates a different criminal statute. Removing, concealing, or destroying federal records, regardless of whether they are classified, can constitute a federal felony. But again, courts have generally required prosecutors pursuing this charge to prove that the defendants knew that they were violating the law, for which the evidence against Clinton appears to be lacking. In the end, extracting the truth in the Clinton email controversy in the current polarized political environment remains a nearly impossible task. Some have already begun to seize upon the Inspector General's report, mischaracterizing it as clear evidence of a crime, and when the Department of Justice announces that it is not filing criminal charges, as is both expected and perhaps inevitable, she will likely argue that it constitutes proof that she did nothing wrong. Based on the publicly available evidence, the reality appears to be nuanced in a way that is satisfying to neither side. She violated the law but committed no crime. How can you violate a law and commit no crime? That makes no sense to me. You know, I want to read something here I have on Facebook. Here. She violated both the Espionage Act, 18 U.S. Code 793, 18 U.S. Code 2071, which is concealment, removal, or mutilation. This issue is not going away. It's not phony issue like Obama's birth certificate issue. The Republicans, especially Trump, are going to use this to drag her down. She should withdraw as a candidate for president. So U.S. Code 793, aka Espionage Act, is gathering, transmitting, or losing defensive information. 18 U.S. Code 2071 is concealment, removal, or mutilation. Whoever having the custody of any such record, proceeding, map, book, document, paper, or other thing, willfully and unlawfully conceals, removes, mutilates, obliterates, falsifies, or destroys the same, shall be filed under this title or imprisoned not more than 3 years or both, and shall forfeit his office or her office and be disqualified from holding any office under the United States. So there was an email where she specifically told them, strip the heading, which said it was confidential. It was confidential because it was, it shouldn't be seen by anybody. So she told them, don't fax it to me, send it in an email, and just strip the head off of it, the heading off of it. So she knew what she was doing. And her telling her office to delete 31,000 emails, that's something too. I just don't get it. There's something brewing here, and her tentacles and money is corrupting so many people. This gotta end. Stay strong, burners.